Bro, you're still young. You made healthy decisions early. You'll reap the benefits later. To be honestly fair, I didn't stop out of health. I think it's really, really hard to stop doing things for the sake of being healthy. I think it has to be a heart change. I think a lot of reasons people are addicted to things or do things so often is not because they don't want to be healthy or they just like the feeling. It's because they have something deep down. Usually it's an identity issue. Usually it goes as deep as like they believe that they don't have self-control, or it goes as deep as a form of self-punishment, but people don't even realize that that's the reason they're doing it. Like, it's usually pretty deep rooted, and it usually comes from an identity, but it might not even like you could tell someone, like you could see it in someone and tell them and they would be like, no. But for a lot of people, it's because they don't see it, especially because they're not sober often, or because they don't want to see it, because it is a comfort. Like, a lot of stuff is like really comfortable, and I feel like that leads to a lot of getting stuck in comfort. Like, have you guys ever been in an unhealthy or toxic relationship, either with family, friends, or dating? If you've been in like a really unhealthy or toxic relationship and then you get in another relationship later on, like you're like, okay, I finally left that. I don't want that anymore. That was bad for me. And then you get into one later on and it's literally the same thing or similar, like it's still unhealthy. It's because you find comfort in things that you know, even if it's not good. It's because when your parent treated you like crap, now that's all you know. So it's more comfortable than a healthy person, because a healthy person doesn't feel like your parent and you want the love that your parent didn't give you through your relationship, because that's what you're needing fulfilled. So you're trying to look for that in someone. So you're trying to look for someone who reminds you of that past, and it's not going to get fulfilled because it's a cycle that continues. And it could also be like if you came from a toxic relationship where you were lied to all the time, you almost get in these thought patterns and thought slides of like, oh, okay, I just can't take what they say for face value. And you almost like overthink all the time. And then you get in a healthy relationship, and then overthinking is actually a bad thing to do in a healthy relationship instead of a safe thing to do. Like, when you're in an unhealthy relationship, overthinking is your safety. So suddenly you're in a healthy relationship and then overthinking is now a bad thing because it actually harms the relationship, and that's uncomfortable. So it's scary because you feel like you're now the problem instead of feeling like even though you're just trying to protect yourself. And so you run away from the healthiness because you feel more comfortable in the unhealthy because you know how to handle the unhealthy and you don't know how to handle the healthy. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that scary? And for a lot of people, that's part of why like comforts that aren't healthy for you become so addictive, is because you don't know how to handle the healthy, because you've never known healthy. So you don't know. It's scary. Healthy is scary because it's your first time. And so a lot of people, the reason that they do the things they do isn't because they're stupid. Like, the reason I was in an abusive relationship for a few years. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't trying to harm myself. I didn't hate the advice other people gave me. But it's all I knew. And I was scared of healthy because I was scared that if I went to a healthy relationship, what if I was the problem then? Which actually did happen. Whenever I started dating Nick, I was the problem a lot, which is crazy because I wasn't the problem in any of my past relationships because they were unhealthy. But I had learned in so many unhealthy relationships, unhealthy ways to handle things, defense mechanisms, that whenever I came into a healthy relationship, I was the unhealthy one. Whoa, crazy. And so, but then that became an identity issue where I was always mad at myself and I was always like trying to punish myself. Like I was almost like hating on myself all the time, which became more of an unhealthy issue. So it I had Jesus, which helped me a lot, and the fact that Nick remained really stable and loved me through it, even though it took a long time. Like, it took, like, a little bit over a year. But it was learning to love myself through the process of learning the healthy. It was learning that I'm not bad for struggling as long as I'm getting better. I'm not bad for struggling or failing as long as I'm pursuing healthy. And that's okay. And then that actually released that fear, but it took time, because that fear, it's kind of like exposure therapy. That fear doesn't just go away instantly. Like, if you have a fear of elevators, your fear is not going to go away just because time passes. Like, you're going to just forget about it. Like, if you're not near an elevator, like, if you're afraid of elevators because you had a bad experience, right? But also, thank you for the hydrate.
Ja pierdolę, jakie bydle! Bober!
I don't know why the images aren't playing. I don't know if you guys can hear a lot of things on my PC aren't working today. I'm so sorry. But, yeah, if you have a fear of elevators, right? And you are afraid of being near elevators, you had a bad experience, a traumatic experience with one, so now you're afraid of elevators. If you just never go near an elevator for the rest of your life, and you take stairs all the time, you never see an elevator, out of sight, out of mind, and you never have a mental breakdown, let's say you go through life and you're like, actually, I'm good, I've never had a mental breakdown. It's not because you're healed. It's because you haven't encountered an elevator. It's not because you healed that trauma, because the moment you do run into an elevator, you're crashing. You're crashing out. Like, you're falling to your knees. You're screwed. It's because you're avoiding it. It's because you haven't ran into one yet. You're not healed. You just haven't been around it. As a lot of people, they'll struggle with relationships, and then, or like, they'll struggle with friendships or relationships, and then they'll go and live on their own for a while. They'll go take a break to work on themselves, but they never work on the relationship. They never work with other people. So they work on themselves, and you're living alone, and you're like, actually, like, I'm pretty healed. I'm a really healthy person. The moment you get in a relationship, you're not healthy, because you never practiced healthy in relationship. You just ran away from it. And so, yeah, because elevators are the problem with relationships. Night Wolf, thank you so much for your sub. So it's like exposure therapy, where with the elevator example, start by just sitting there and making yourself stare at the elevator for 10 seconds and call it a win. Yeah, maybe you still crashed out after 10 seconds, but you made it to 10 seconds just staring at an elevator. Just try to touch the elevator. Don't even go in it. Just touch it, right? That's exposure therapy, right? Yeah, maybe you crash out after touching it. Maybe you sob and have like a post-traumatic experience, but at least you took one step closer. You didn't fail. You actually succeeded. And then the next day, maybe you can stand inside of it. Maybe you don't ride it, but maybe you stand inside of it or take just one step. And eventually one day you're riding the elevator and you're fine. But you're gonna crash out in the journey of getting over that fear. It's exposure therapy. It's the same with relationships. It's the same with getting sober. People who are addicts. It's scary to be sober. Not because you're afraid of your thoughts and stuff. It's because it's uncomfortable and you don't know what healthy is anymore. So it's exposure therapy almost. Like, and a lot of people don't and the reason why it gets so hard is because of the self-hatred. Is because you fail and you go back to drinking or picking up the bottle or whatever, right? And then you feel like you're a bad person because you failed. But in reality, you went 3 weeks without picking up a bottle. That's a success. And yeah, you failed once, but if in that moment when you fail, you're like, wait, I did succeed, you're 10 times more likely to not pick it up tomorrow and do it and keep clean again, starting the next day. And it's like, oh, I just fell off the wagon once. I'm not going to ruin my whole life because I fell off the wagon once. I'll just get back on the wagon. You know, I stayed on the wagon for this long. That's pretty good. Let me get back on it. See how long I can do it this time. But a lot of people That's the problem, is that, and for if you're a Christian, that's where the enemy comes in with those thoughts of self-hatred of like, I fell off the wagon, that means I suck, that means I can never stay on the wagon. What's the point of even getting back on the wagon if I'm just gonna fall off again? How do you know you're gonna fall off again? And if you do fall off, like, you were on the wagon for this long, that's a success. Good job. Maybe next time, more than likely next time, you'll be on there even longer. And I think it's and that's why therapy is such a, first of all, exposure therapy, but second of all, actual therapy, they go hand in hand, because you need someone, or if you're Christian, Jesus, like identity, your identity in Christ, you need someone speaking that identity into you. You need someone helping stop those thought loops that are happening in your brain. You need people to like speak life into you. You need to learn the habit of speaking life into yourself, even when you don't feel it. You need to learn that your emotions don't correlate with the truth. Maybe you feel like you failed, but that's not the truth. Feelings are false. Feelings are good indicators that something might be wrong, but that doesn't mean that your feelings are what you base your actions off of. And so learning that through practice and having people to speak that into you and hold you accountable, that's why it's so important. Same with same with the exposure therapy. They go hand in hand. You can't just have one without the other. Otherwise, you're going to fail at the other one. Like if you're doing exposure therapy and you don't have that speaking life, those habits, those practices, then you're going to fail here and not have this backup to handle it. You need a physical version of therapy, which is that exposure therapy, that doing, that like actually doing, and you also need that mental aspect, because they go hand in hand. There's a reason why when people are so stressed, their hair falls out or they struggle with things, because their mental correlates with their physical. Or whenever you work out, your mental is better, right? It's because it all connects. So it's the same way with therapy. You can't just do one without the other. You can't just expect yourself to be sober if you're surrounding yourself by people that when you fall aren't going to speak life into you and are going to also be struggling with the same things as you. Because then whenever this fails, you don't have the backup, or especially if you don't have like a therapist and stuff, and or Jesus, like if you're Christian like me. But like it's just, yeah, I don't know how I got on that tangent. Sorry. Hey guys, welcome to Therapy Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?